All right, YouTube. So if you haven't been paying too much attention the last week and missed out on it, there's been a bit of controversy going around surrounding the new Twitch Trust and Safety Council. We're going to look at Sargon's video here, then we're going to look at a bit from Vaush's video that I have a bit of an issue with that I want to jump on here, so it'll just be one big video. So if you want to see the Vaush part, you're going to have to get to the end. Alrighty.
Good news, Twitch users. They've established a safety advisory council to help sort out their rules. That's good news for you, isn't it? They can take some of the professional Twitch streamers and get them to help moderate the platform for you, the user, the person who wants to watch people either playing games or thoughts painting their boobs.
So it's just kind of to talk on different policies going. Not going to be the moderators.
On May the 14th, Twitch announced the formation of its new Safety Advisory Council, a group made up of streamers, academics, and non-profit leaders that will advise the company on online safety issues. They'll help Twitch draft new policies and update old ones, develop new products for safety and moderation, protect the interests of marginalized people. Weird, that was a strange addition on there, but weird. And identify new toxic trends emerging from the platform. Oh, are they really? That's very interesting. Where have I heard language like this before? On the streamer side, the group comprised of Twitch partners who have been using the site full-time for years. So they brought on Co-Carnage, Noodle, FerociouslySteph, and Zizaran. I don't use Twitch, so I don't know who any of these people are, but I've seen a few clips from FerociouslySteph that have been going around, and, well, they are certainly setting off my I'm slightly concerned about this person being given power radar.
I mean, there's... Alright, so the whole bunch of that just covered the basic intro stuff for it. Yeah, it's going to be interesting the rest of the video here.
Maybe nice and soft. Round to the back of the head. Maybe down a little bit.
I can't say I've heard of any of the other people, apart from T.L. Taylor. And when I read this article, I was like, right, okay, where do I recognize that name from? I definitely recognize that name. I knew that there is something that they've done in the past that I've had reason to either document or comment on. And so I had to go back and look through a few of my old videos. And it turns out that in a video I did in 2014 on my main channel, regarding the initial steps leading up to Gamergate, which was effectively the incursion of social justice warriors trying to change the culture of the gaming industry artificially.
So, it's funny that he'll admit this now, but he held on for a long time to the Gamergate being the ethics and games journal sense. It's about time he's come clean. It was actually about.
T.L. Taylor took place in a fishbowl discussion called The Playful is Political, a culture on identity and diversity in game culture. And this is the quote that I recall from it. T.L. Taylor says, "We've come a long way since 10 years ago, since 2004 this was. E.g., we have moved beyond an unarticulated, imagined player to look at actual players, context, practices. We don't conflate women and girls so much anymore. We've made some inroads, but are starting to talk about gender and masculinity in men, not just women. We now have more nuanced conversations. We spent a lot of time early on just getting basics on the table. Exciting that we can now talk about intersectionality at game studies conferences." Well, that's who T.L. Taylor was. She was one of the people who was responsible for pushing intersectionality into the gaming industry. Is it not such good news?
I mean, there's not a problem with that at all, right? Like, Sargon's got an issue with it. Sargon's it.
News that she is now on Twitch's Safety and Advisory Council. How could this go wrong? Anyway, The Verge say what's most interesting about these people is, as a group, they're experts in Twitch and experts in online moderation. They are also experts at being radical socialists who are pushing a particular agenda that into the gaming industry that has had such measurable effects. I mean, if you haven't been following the gaming industry, you might be unaware that certain major studios are currently dying because of social justice politics that they have been projecting outwards on everything.
So, intersectionality isn't socialism, Sargon. I know, it's become a meme at this point, but anybody left of a Nazi is a socialist in his eyes. And that's a bit of hyperbole on my part, but yeah, I have no idea about anybody's personal politics and right who's an actual. Most of them probably aren't based on numbers, right? They're probably progressive Democrats and stuff. Like
I'm going to leave a link to V's second channel in the description because he's been covering this on there a lot. Companies like Naughty Dog would be the example of this, where the chap in question, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, gave Anit Sarkeesian Game Ambassador of the Year award. Neil Druckmann gave Anit Sarkeesian a Game Ambassador of the Year award in, I think it was 2014 Game Awards, for being such a good ambassador for gaming. It really is all.
So I think Druckmann just presented it at the Game Awards. Wasn't anything there, but I mean, if that's the worst thing that games are failing because of SJW politics, and we don't have any of the politics in. But if you're familiar with the whole Last of Us 2 controversy, is what he's bringing up here. But it's not necessarily that the game's not out yet. We don't know how successful it's going to be. I imagine it's going to be a pretty successful game. First one was huge, big fan base, and a lot of the backlash is probably not as big as what people.
All the same thing that we've been talking about this whole time that's now coming to fruition. And now Naughty Dog's leaks have been embarrassing, and I look forward to when the game comes out because it looks like it's going to be hell on both sides. As I recall, a transgender person is the villain and ends up persecuting the heroes. Anyway, I'm not going to go into that. But the point is, social justice has been rolling through the game industry behind the scenes, and now we are seeing the very extremities of it coming to the surface. This is what Gamergate was resistant to at the time, and it did fail in its mission to encourage the gaming industry to reject these kinds of politics.
So I thought it was, like I brought up earlier, it's going to be rehashed. We're not to the meat of his complaint about stuff yet, but it's he's changed his tune on it. It's Gamergate was to be anti-SJW and nothing to do with ethics and games journalism, like he held on for years. Yeah. Oh yeah. Sargon is a joke.
But now we're here, and now this is what Twitch users are going to get. I wonder how this will affect their platform. As they say in the Verge article, Twitch is the largest live streaming platform on the planet, and the fact that it's engaged a council to help steer the ship is heartening. Yeah, I'm sure they'll make this corner of the internet, as they say, a little less toxic. I've got no doubt whatsoever. And the first...
I hope that's true. Hope that happens. What that entails, we don't know yet. But they could have done this all without the publicity and stuff. All Twitch could have just changed the rules one day, and we're left with it here, like YouTube does.
The first way that you make things less toxic is by banning voice chats, because it's not inclusive, and it gives some players a competitive advantage over others.
So this is Carl being stupid, because voice chat has nothing to do with Twitch, right? Just because it's Steph's position on it here, and I understand the logic and the argument behind it. Oh my God, we want to get into that later. We can. Chris Reagan put out a video today and literally read verbatim her tweets, her outline, her logic here, and then thought she was saying something completely different and looked really stupid. It was a bad video for Chris to put out.
The only way to have a level playing field at the highest level of play is to have is to not have voice chat, to not have people give up their linguistic profiles. And maybe you think, if you are a competitive gamer, which a lot of people have been like, Steph, you clearly know nothing about competitive play. Well, competition, by the way, y'all, competition requires you to get every advantage possible. To become the top 0.01% in any video game, you have to squeeze every amount of advantage you can possibly get. Voice chat is unfair. Period.
So voice chat is unfair because it is a competitive edge that players can adopt in order to help them win the game. It's not inclusive. It doesn't create a level playing field.
So her argument is that, for people who suffer from like harassment and stuff over a voice chat, especially in like the pickup stuff, right? You have your own team, friends or whatever, voice chat's probably not a big deal. I don't know how every competitive game works that way, but it's left out. So they either have to put up with the abuse or harassment, other stuff through voice chat, or they shut it off. And if they shut it off, they're giving up, they're giving the other side an advantage that they don't have anymore, right? Making it unfair, right? So that's the crux of her argument. Not a, is banning voice chat the way to go? I don't know. Probably better moderation, reporting tools, and stuff like that you could place, right, to take care of the toxic behavior online. That'd probably be a better step than banning.
Because there are some people in the world who can't use voice chat. What should we do about that? Ban voice chat. This is social justice at work. I couldn't think of a more perfect example of why social justice is going to kill the good aspects of a community and of a system, of a thing that you do, because there is a minority of people who are in some way, that is not the fault of the people using it, unable to use it. This is...
Well, her argument is that it's the fault of the people using it, Carl, right? You don't show any of the other stuff there. You show the one little clip that's not her best argument about it, right? Like I said, better moderation tools, better stuff like that would be a better way to go than get rid of voice chat altogether.
It's unacceptable. This is one of those things that just has to be gotten rid of. It doesn't matter that you are penalizing the majority because of the problems of a few. It doesn't matter. Everything must be reduced to the lowest common denominator.
Well, it'd be penalizing, quote unquote, penalizing the majority. It's not really. It'd be leveling the playing field, right? Because of how the majority of gamers act on voice. Right? Like, I've been on voice chat in games and stuff like there. There's how many times I've, F slurs and R slurs and all sorts of just awful behavior and stuff directed at everybody, right? And so that's something games should take care of, right? Especially if you're going to play competitively. You're going to have it run competitively, and you're going to end up with randos on your team or anything else there that you got to talk to that treat you like shit. Especially if you're a woman, you're a person, anything.
Anything that has a barrier to entry eventually will have to be done away with, because along this line of logic, anything that doesn't create an exactly level playing field is in some way problematic. Like, let's be honest, the gamers themselves.
No,
And what's funny is he'll argue against trans women in women's sports, right? But which would be essentially the same argument Steph's making, or equivalent. Not exactly the same. But I mean, he'd make the argument, oh, that's unfair. We can't do that. Can't have it there. Ban him from here. That's anything else like that. But he's fine. It's part of the hypocrisy of Sargon. Whereas the advantage and stuff, when we get in, that's a whole other thing. I have a video on it. If we get that far tonight, respond to one, and we'll talk a little bit more about that there. But
I'm just not cool with white supremacy, y'all. It's really not that. I think a lot of you gamers are actually white supremacists. Sorry. Just a fact of how I feel, which isn't a...
Oh, a lot of you gamers are white supremacists. Just a fact about how they feel. Well, who gives a damn? Why would anyone care that she thinks gamers are white supremacists?
So this is people that went into her chat, Sargon. You're presenting it as if she's just saying it about gamers out of the blue. This is people that went into her chat, were bothering her because of the being on the Twitch council, right? And so she was talking to the people that were invading her chat.
Why are you bringing this up? How is it germane to the topic at hand? How has the concept of white supremacy now been introduced into competitive gaming?
It's a different clip, Sargon. Like, did we not see that? He put a different clip here and he's putting it together like this is all the same thing.
What does it have to do with anything? I mean, surely you don't know the race of the people that you are playing against in most circumstances, do you? And how does that have any bearing on what's going on in the game? But no, now we're concerned about white supremacy, and she has reason to think, who knows what that is, that gamers are white supremacist.
Yeah, so once again, these are different clips. They might be from one stream or anything else here, but these are different clips over different topics and dealing with different issues, and put them together, which is how dishonest Carl is.
However, you know that this person actually does not believe that most gamers are white supremacists because of this massive shit-eating grin. Throughout the course of these clips, you can see she can barely contain her joy.
And he changed a lot to most here, and that's a lot of the criticism Steph's been getting for that particular clip. A lot and the most are not the same thing, right? You know, if you have 5-10%, that might be a lot for something as especially if you go to something Sargon's white nationalism and stuff like that. But that's not all. It's only a small part of what would be white supremacy and stuff there. But yeah, it's you know, a lot and the most aren't the same thing, but change it to the most what gotten riled up a lot of people to go after.
Telling you that you are white supremacists. She is putting you on the back foot. Now you have to somehow justify that you're not a white supremacist. Now you have to try and figure out what the hell that she's talking about. On what grounds is she calling you a white supremacist? Why would this be relevant? This is the face of a fundamentally dishonest person in this regard. And I think that...
No, it's not. Fundamentally dishonest face is the one Carl's making. No.
People know it. I think that people can see it. I think that people can tell when they are being taken for a ride, and when someone is leveling wild and ridiculous allegations like this with a huge grin on their face, that's a person who is having fun at your expense. This is not a person you should be taking seriously, and it's certainly not a person that Twitch should bring onto any kind of safety advisory council, because they are not an honest actor. There are some fantastic tweets.
Again, nothing in that clip showed Steph being dishonest, Carl. Right?
It's included in this article. One from Asmongold, Zach, who I've spoken to before. He seems like a very reasonable chap. He says, I'll admit I'm skeptical of the Twitch Safety Advisory Council. I hope it will make the platform better. I worry that it will be a tool for people on the council to assert their personal agendas, or that people on it will end up getting the blame for things they didn't do. Well, they're definitely asserting their personal agendas, aren't they?
Well, so Twitch has come out and clarified, right, that that they don't have anything else on. They're kind of taken away. So this video came out before that clarification, obviously. It wasn't there. I mean, you know, Asmongold is also setting up exactly what Sargon and a lot of the gamers are going to do. Steph's going to be their target going forward, no matter what Twitch does, right? You know, even though there's there's 8 people on the council or something like that dealing with it, and however many people within Twitch itself work with them, designing some of these policies, different things they're going to do, right? They've already picked out their bad guy, and it's going to be Anita Sarkeesian all over again. And they're going to make whatever they want stick to her, right? Like The Last of Us 2, you brought that up, that situation there, you know, even mentioned Anita Sarkeesian. Anita Sarkeesian had absolutely nothing to do with how Last of Us 2 was put together, right? Had nothing to do with it. But she got relentless hate for it for days because Druckmann presented her that award, and then Druckmann spoke positively in the past of Anita's work. You know, so that's it. That's the only connection. She got hate forever after those leaks came out. You know, so that's what's going to happen to Steph, unfortunately. No matter what happens, it's all going to be put on them. People like Sargon, the quartering, people who really don't give a shit about the platform itself are going to be pushing this stuff going forward. How you doing, Russ?
Zach, one of them is calling just gamers and Twitch users white supremacists. This is obviously a vehicle to push a social justice agenda to, quote, detoxify your platform. Enjoy, I'm sure it's going to really improve things. But FerociouslySteph hit back against this criticism saying, ooh yeah, whole lot of people with cis white male voices thinking voice chat is critical to competitive gaming being competitive. Tell me more about how we'll solve systemic misogyny and everything will be fine. Well, there we go. This is FerociouslySteph's goal. Solving systemic misogyny. Personally, I'm not interested in solving systemic misogyny at all. I'm finding myself more and more committed to the concept of patriarchy, which I...
Yeah. We know you're masked off on a lot of this stuff now, Carl. Oh, man. Like, and just like how Malding mad he is over this, right? You know, when he was the one that, something simple like this, she was getting a lot of hate and it's, shooting back and stuff like that. Should she be doing that? Should be, when she's on this thing, should she be feeding into that? I don't know. I don't think it's much of an issue. She hasn't done anything big on stuff here, but yeah. But I mean, this is the guy that did the push the rape tweets and stuff forever, right? And ass backwards defense, giving it to there. Even went so far when he was running for UKIP to go. What was it when all the articles came out about the tweet and said that if people pressure me enough, I might do it. Literally jokes, I'm gonna rape her, right? He continues on filling off that stuff here, right? Man, he's Maldy man of something.
I guess is being upheld by competitive games having voice chats, Steph. Pro-patriarchy, sign me up on that team. The patriarchy is a moral good, change my mind. Here's Steph's basic thesis.
I wish I had it all queued up. We could get the clip where Sargon says that white women in the West should be forced to breed. Right? That's how Fargani is at this point.
We need to talk about why adding voice chat to your game is anti-inclusivity. Don't care. Get out. How it hurts marginalized and female player base, especially within competitive play. Oh, the logic is voice chat is a competitive advantage, muting someone is a competitive disadvantage, people who are harassed are likely and encouraged to mute their harassers, and this is the only way to stop the harassment leaving the game, as leaving the game incurs penalties. Well, you know what? I agree, Steph. I completely agree. I say ban voice chat. In fact, why don't you...
I mean, the logic on that is sound. Now, should it be banning the voice chat or anything there? You can do better moderation, better reporting, better all sorts of things you can do to take care of trying to clean up the toxicity, that you'd run into on voice chat, right? There's nothing wrong in what she said here.
Ban any other aspects of it that you think could end up creating a competitive disadvantage for those poor people who are just constantly harassed everywhere they go. I don't see why you can't imposing more restrictions on things. Maybe you could have some sort of face scanner. When you log in, it could scan your face, and if you're a cis-het white male, then they could, or if the software determines that you are, then they could be given automatic penalties to help balance the field. It just makes sense, doesn't it? Penalize those.
No, it doesn't, Carl, right? That's not how this would work. Anything here, and this kind of silly argument against what Steph's putting forward is kind of the ludicrousness of the internet right now.
People for being cis-het white males, because they have an inherent advantage, because they're not the ones being harassed. In fact, they probably are the harassers. They're probably white supremacists, aren't they, Steph? So it just makes sense. It would be what we could call justice. But what I find really interesting is when someone goes on the internet and says something silly, and many people see that, they get what is normally called a backlash. A very reasonable backlash, actually, because it seems unfair to say that because a small minority of people can't use a thing, that it should be taken away for others. That seems tyrannical, frankly, so I can see why people would object to that. But of course, whenever
This is the guy who will make the libertarian argument from time to time about the what is it the smallest minority is the individual kind of argument, and argue that can't infringe on anything like that for them there, and he's gonna say it's tyrannical to address issues like there in other situations. I'll have to find the clip. We can play it later here and stuff, but yeah, it's essentially the argument, as I remember it, is the West is a moral good, and so the moral good is I'll have to find the exact word, find the clip.
A social justice warrior receives a backlash because of some ludicrous thing they've said, either calling people Nazis or saying that they're oppressing women or whatever it is that Steph is implying here, well, that's harassment. Of course it's harassment. It's immediately harassment. The stock victim narrative comes out of the woodwork. The face of a victim, ladies and gentlemen, the face of someone who's being harassed for the things that they've said.
I mean, she has been. That's what she's responding to. You're gonna. He's not gonna get into the couple of other clips where they jump. Yeah, then she's been getting it on Twitter, getting it all over the place. It's there. Like, you can pull up. I wasn't planning to do this. Screw up. That one. Okay. Let's go to her timeline. All right, let's see. 3 hours ago, let's see if anybody's gotten it yet or they've been banned. All right, so this one's been going around, right? The deer hunter hunting her stuff has been put in there. Yep, putting some transphobic shit in there, right? Let's see. There's a couple other ones that come up. That one, let's see, a little while ago. Get a lot. That stuff in there, throwing her away. Getting hit by deer, getting hit by a car and stuff like that. Right, this is the shit she's just getting on Twitter, let alone what she's been getting in her live streams. Now she moderates her live streams, so they get booted right away, or somewhere after there. Because there's a clip that was going around. I don't know if Sargon's not going to get into it. He's at the end of his video, so that's going to take care of that first portion here. But I mean, in the clip that he doesn't have in here, talking about that they're using, like, oh no, they're going to go ban and kick everything else out here and use her power that way, and she's basically dealing with the trolls coming over here and say there's no free speech here, we'll kick you out of here, you know, any of this other stuff, as people are harassing her over it. Yeah. She's been getting harassment, Carl, right? All right, so this is the last bit. This is the other part of the video, part of the situation I wanted to cover from Vaush's video, and this is why I brought this back up for tonight. So he has some takes on here that are, I think, are really bad, and his argument's really bad here, so we'll get through this.
She should not be on there. Now, if we're going to go full id pull and make the assumption that Twitch included FerociouslySteph because FerociouslySteph is a trans progressive person, which I think is likely considering the fact that she did not have a particularly large audience and does not seem to have any professional credentials relating to this job beforehand.
So she's an activist in some sense. So and part of the takedown and the harassment stuff here is they found that she appeared at a speaking gig for the Anti-Defamation League, right? 2018. Right, so she speaks on this. I can't find any other big orgs that she's spoken to yet, but so she has a connection to the ADL, which is highly likely why she got on the council, right? I think one of the other members or whatever is works with the ADL, so I think that's why she's there. You know, it's not just, oh, she's a trans woman. Let's find some random trans person on. Yeah, I don't know if it's necessarily any like she's not an academic or anything like that in there, right? She's an activist. But I mean, she's also a Twitch streamer. She's been on here for what, 3 years now. I don't think any of the other, there's 3 other Twitch streamers on here. Nobody else is calling their credentials in on it.
Then I think the best possible person that they could have put in this position would have been Lumi Rue. This is my bias speaking, as Lumi is a friend of mine, and I value their content very much. But Lumi is a very disciplined, professional, gender non-conforming person who I think would have done an excellent job representing this position. Now, this is making the assumption that we're going full idpol here. Like, oh, we need a trans person in this slot. I think it's a little...
So the one thing he slipped in there is Lumi being professional and Steph not being professional, right? And he's going to get into, as we go along here, he's going to bring up a pretty weird, say, hypothetical, or to use as an analogy for this here. But yeah, just the language that, oh, Steph's not professional because she does something on her stream, which is her brand of entertainment, right? And we saw in the other clip, she's all presented professionally. She speaks out at least this ADL conference. I assume she does some other things, but that's the big one that went around in the people that are upset that she's on the thing because ADL. Oh, that's the Jews, right? That's the big alt-right issue with the organization, right?
A little bit condescending to look at it that way, but if we are...
Well, I mean, they're just their voices to, to be on the thing. They're just representatives of Twitch, right? So you can't, so, this would be the Vaush thing with things like, worker co-ops and things. Not quite the same thing here, but if you want, like, representation, you grab any of the Twitch streamers. You want, Twitch representation on this board, just from, the general population of, Twitch streamers, right? We want to be able to tell Twitch, hey, talk about these ideas and the different policies they're looking to put in place, right? We want that representation. We don't want them to make it where they do whatever they want, like YouTube does. I mean, every now and then YouTube brings people in, but for the most part, YouTube does their own thing. They leave the creators in the dust. You're like, well, what the hell? Or Twitter does the same thing, right? As far as I know, Twitter doesn't have. I don't know how you do it on Twitter with the panel, but they don't have, a similar thing with people that actually use the platform, or streamers here on Twitch, going on there and presenting, hey, here are the issues with this. These are the things we're having. Can we get, say, this moderation tool to deal with toxic people in chat, right, and bring that up to Twitch, right? So we have our representation to say, well, you don't have credentials in something else. You know what I mean? And so that's, running the credentials and stuff is it's only done for Steph and not for the other streamers.
Are looking at it that way, I would choose Lumi. The main issue is, at this point, there's no way for Twitch to back out. Twitch can't fire.
But see, and with the credential stuff, we can say the same thing about Lumi. And I like Lumi. Lumi's, they're a great person, stuff like that. I think would be great on this console as well. But I mean, Lumi doesn't have any other credentials, that would put her above, or excuse me, that would put them above Steph. Right?
Or I guess let go of FerociouslySteph, because if Twitch does do that, it's going to be blown up in the larger media as trans woman put on safety council, removed by Twitch after toxic fan backlash, which would be optics poison for Twitch. The thing that
that would be true, right?
I would hope for more than anything else would be that FerociouslySteph, unfortunately, after all the harassment she's received, would step down from her position, simply saying she didn't feel she was the right pick for the job. If she did that, it would be sad because she would be bullied off that position, but it might also be the most amicable resolution to that problem possible. There are no good routes from here on out. There are only bad paths forward.
But let's say in the hypothetical that Lumi was on council instead of staff, right? And I imagine Lumi being non-binary and everything else like that, and she'd get kind of the same. Excuse me, they would. Forgive me for the flipping up on the gendering, but they'd likely get the same kind of harassment, everything else here, right? So oh well, Lumi's more professional, so they should be on it over staff, but he doesn't really. He will get into it later. I've seen the rest of the clip, but he will get into why Steph isn't professional and shouldn't be on there. But I'll bring up the issues because he's going to bring up a different hypothetical to try to prove.
Some paths are worse than others. Because as long as she is in this position, she is a
How you doing, Trey?
magnet for hate. An absolute magnet. An absolute fucking magnet. Pay Money Wubby and Critical have already begun making videos that have gotten let's see. Dear, yeah, here we go. If you YouTube search Dear, you get her, not Dear. That's pretty crazy, huh? How do you spell critical? Is it like that? Is that how we do it?
But I mean, you'd have the same thing with Lumiru, right? An NB on the panel or something like that, or any trans person, right? In Steph's play, you have the same situation. Now, maybe not quite as bad because I don't think Lumi's said anything about banning voice chat, but banning voice chat has nothing to do with what she'd be doing with Twitch.
Do it. Twitch Safety Council controversy, nearly 1 million views. Oh yes. How about we take a look at our favorite cowardly friend over here, based Elon Musk. Very nice, very nice. And then we've got Twitch gets woke. Look at that. Look who it is. If you want to go, you can find literally hundreds of videos on her right now, one of which I am about to make. I'm currently making that video. Critical's take was okay. Critical seemed to me like a far more reasonable person than many of the other types. So Critical actually said a good thing. That's actually really good to hear. I'm actually really, really happy about that. Okay, I'll check the video out later, but if that's the case, I'm actually very happy about that. At the end of the day, this is a fact. We all share a collective interest in making Twitch, making gaming, making the internet, making everything more progressive, more reasonable, less harmful, less bigoted. We all care about that. FerociouslySteph does too. But if we are to do that, we should engage in those efforts without forming any incendiary beacons that gamer hate can be organized around. That is really, really important. That is.
Again, it doesn't matter who you put in that position, right? The gamer hate's gonna come around and after whoever you put in there, right? Like, I mean, I brought it up. Where is it? Anita Sarkeesian. This is, for close to a fucking decade, has been gamers. I want to say punching bag, but target for everything evil and everything wrong they think is wrong with modern gaming, right? And so he's going to bring up things like, he had already shown them in the video. I didn't show the whole clips there, but things like the head scratch stuff and the deer antlers and things like that. But here's, Anita Sarkeesian, pretty, laid back milquetoast look, giving milquetoast feminist takes on video games, right? And she was, target number one. Since her fundraising thing, what was it, 2012? Really blew up during Gamergate. But she was getting hate even back then when she was fundraising for doing feminist frequency. Right? So I don't see the argument that, well, if we get someone like Anita who does, or anything like this, or Lumiru. Lumiru might even get even more hate than someone similar to like Anita here. Because they do the different hair colors and all that other stuff, and being a non-binary person. You know, how many attack helicopters and two gender jokes that we're gonna get. No. Oh no no no. I'm with you, Mr. Decrypting. Yeah, there's no freedom of speech on Twitch. It's their platform to run as they wish, right?
It's very, very important. For example, and this is an example that I gave yesterday on stream.
All right, get ready for it, right? This is going to be yikesy.
Do I want to give the example I gave yesterday on stream because it was an exceedingly edgy example? Fuck it. Okay, so follow through with me here on this one, okay? Let's say we have a school that has a racism issue. It's a high school, it's in the inner city, black folk, white folk there, a lot of tension between them, you know. And what the school is going to do is they're going to appoint an anti-racism resource counselor to try and like mitigate the racial tensions in that school. And so what they do is they hire Tyrone Big Dick. And Tyrone Big Dick is a black man who wears pants down low and has grills and what have you. And as an anti-racist, I'm sure that all of us can agree that there's nothing inherently wrong with any of those things. And if you think there's anything wrong with that, I would encourage you to question why you personally take issue with the existence of black men who present the way in which I just described. Admittedly, Big Dick isn't a super popular last name, but anyway.
So he's going to take that dress into the job portion, professional speak. Say, well, you're walking around in this stuff at the school as a school counselor and stuff like that, and make it there. That's the flaw in his analogy and hypothetical. But if this Tyrone character, right, does that away from the job and in their personal life, what's the big deal, right? Like, you can do all that stuff there, and then come in and present professional and stuff like that. Like we saw a little earlier, the photo from the ADL conference that Steph was speaking at, all dressed professionally, all handled, and all that other stuff, right? So right here, right from the beginning, this whole hypothetical falls apart. And I even brought it up with the way Anita looks, right? Anita wouldn't, if Steph was just like Anita in how she dressed, how she there, wasn't doing the deer thing on stream, that was it. Like, Steph would still be getting all the hate.
And this Tyrone Big Dick, very, very, very intelligent, academically very aware of systemic racism, cares a lot about mending the divides in the school, so on and so forth. Like, we're talking like a really, really accomplished person who is named Tyrone Big Dick and who has grills and the pants sag low and what have you. Do you think that the intentions and the credentials of this person are that important when the optics of their presence there are going to prevent others from listening to them? I was waiting for a chat answer, but I guess I'll just go on right.
So I'll give the answer here. Like I said before, personal life doesn't matter when going into school professionally, right? You can handle it here. But another problem with this hypothetical analogy is that Steph isn't talking to the problematic people, right? She's talking to Twitch directly on the console, right? Providing her input, right? So Twitch would have no problem taking her input. They put her on the console, right? So this analogy falls apart. Not good.
My argument would be no. My argument would be no. Because even if Tyrone Big Dick is a super fucking on the ball cool.
He really likes saying that over and over again. I mean, this is where some of the people have problems with you, Vaush. I mean, and this is pretty mild compared to some of the other stuff he's.
Dude. Oh, Tyrone's Big Dick is actually slightly smaller than average, but he knows that you guys wouldn't be bothered by that. Tyrone Big Dick, even though he's a very, very accomplished and intelligent person, Unfortunately, because of the way he presents, the way that he appears, people are not going to listen to him. The racist white kids in that school probably aren't really going to give a fuck about what he has to say because they meet all his expectations of the type of person we shouldn't care about.
Yeah, but so, like I said, the example he's given is so the racist white kids are Twitch, right? But when he means the racist white kids are the gamers, they're gonna have an issue with her, right? But like even with like someone like Lumi or Anita, you're gonna have that issue no matter what, right? With this particular set of gamers.
And that's what FerociouslySteph is to Twitch. FerociouslySteph is constitutionally incapable of doing positive change on the platform because she meets every single stereotype that gamers have about this type of person, or at least many of those stereotypes. And for that reason, it is virtually impossible for her to affect change in any positive manner.
Cool. Daryl Davis is one to get into. He's more of a brand than something that's actually, if from people that have investigated his claims, he's probably not as successful as he puts out or claims to be, right? Based on deeper look to some of the people changed. But if we grant that's, all 200 people or whatever that he took away from the clan is true, you're right. There's a point there. If that's true, hey, you put Daryl Davis in with a bunch of racists and fine. But I mean, his analogy doesn't work, right? Because Steph is talking with Twitch, the people in Twitch themselves are coming up with different solutions for different things, right? So even if gamers hate her going forward, no matter what, whatever Twitch does, you can still affect positive change within Twitch by being on this council, right? So Vaush's argument is null and void.
Steph isn't a political actor. She's just giving advice to Twitch. She's not starting some movement. Yes, except now that Steph is on this council, it's very likely that people are going to ubiquitously oppose any decisions they feel were made by this council or informed by this council because they're going to assume it's all crazy SJW stuff, even though many of the people on this council are extremely academically accomplished and intelligent. They were going to...
And if they oppose anything there, so what? They don't have a choice. They want to be on Twitch, they're going to have to abide by the rules Twitch makes, right? This is where the argument falls apart, right? I don't think there's much more to it. Might yell at chat for a little bit. I don't know if we want to go through and see that. We want to move on to the Ethan Keemstar stuff, or at least what I want to talk about with that drama.
To oppose them anyway? Fuck them? No, you can't. No, you can't. That's just delusional. No, optics exist for a reason. Optics are a thing that exist. Do you seriously think that if Steph wasn't on this platform, that live stream fail wouldn't look like this right now? You should be able to act stereotypical if you want.
Yeah, but I mean, if someone else in Steph's place, right? If Lumi was in Steph's place, right? Live stream fails would find something there. She's gonna be like, again, we had Anita for about 8 years. And he's gonna say, "Oh, she's not professional and stuff on her stream." And here she's all professional up in for the ADL and doing the conference and stuff. So the immature and unprofessional stuff claims that Vaush makes about Steph don't seem to hold any water, right? There's not much else left.
I'm getting frustrated now. Yes, in an ideal world, absolutely.
How's it doing, Lurkatron?
You should be able to act stereotypically if you want. But if we're talking about optical presentation and the ability to effectively make change, pragmatism is important. This is very obvious. Walk up to a black guy who's trying to make his way in the business world and say, "Hey, dude, you don't have to talk like that or wear a suit. Well, you can dress however you want. I saw this picture of you when you were 13. You used to wear your pants down low. You can do that here." Like, come on.
Again, that's not what people are saying. I mean, this is so disingenuous I don't want to say disingenuous, but I think he's being honest in his position. He's just fallacious would be the better word of Vaush, in this comparison, right? But yeah, it's not going to go any further than that. So we'll wrap up.